So what we're going to do here is we are going to configure this 2012 server. This is Microsoft Server 2012. What we're going to do is we're going to configure it with Active Directory. Actually, I think I've already added the role of Active Directory to it as well as DNS. So as you can see, these services, this is Server Manager. When you start the computer, it will automatically go into Server Manager. And within the Server Manager is where you define the various features and roles that a computer are going to use. Again, what Microsoft does is they change up the way that you access the tools, the look and the feel. Over time, what they've done is they've consolidated all of those tools into individual areas so that you've got a single screen whereby you're able to access the majority of these tools. It's, again, it's nice. It is nice to have them consolidated and an easy place to go to, but they're not really making huge changes. But again, this is my first foray into 2012, so maybe there are functionality changes that I will note. But you'll notice if I go over to the Manage tab, I can add roles and features, right? I can go to the Tools tab, and you can see the various administrative tools that an administrator would use to administer their domain. So what I've done is I've added the Active Directory role and the DNS role to this server. What I need to do is I need to create this as a primary domain controller. So you see this notifications area. Anytime you see an exclamation mark there in that notifications area, there are actions that need to be taken. Okay, it's trying to tell you to do something. So here, I need to create, just as I said earlier, I need to promote this to a domain controller. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to ask a series of questions. As you see here, they are grayed out. As we go through this wizard, we'll answer the questions that we'll ask the questions that you need to answer. Now, once upon a time, this is the kind of stuff that you had to do very manually. You had to know that these things needed to be done and completed before you were able to go on. Now, they've simply added it into a wizard, right? They've simply put it into a wizard and made it a lot easier. Um, which again, that's awesome. I think what ends up happening is those that have been in the industry for some time and know where it came from have a more granular understanding as it relates to what things need to be done, where they live, and how to execute them. Okay, the wizard kind of dumbs people down a little bit, right? But it's nice. Um, so we are now into the deployment configuration. You notice that it was looking at the config of the server and it was just reading, all of its settings and preparing this wizard to go through. So now the options are to add a domain controller into an existing domain controller to an existing domain. That would be if you already have a domain that is deployed, right? You're adding another server to an existing domain. You're adding a new domain to a new forest. So a new forest. So if you think about when we talk about a forest is composed of trees. Well, when we're speaking about computers, it's the same thing, right? A forest is the overarching area in which those trees reside. Okay, so consider the trees the servers, consider the branches the client computers, right? And the forest is where all of these things reside. Okay, so what we're going to do, since this is a new server, I'm going to add a new forest. Okay, this is a new forest, and I'm going to give my domain a name. .com. Oops. Okay, and we go next. And what it does is it begins to read and determine those things that need to be completed in order to add a new forest. Okay. So now what it's asking you is the functional level of the new forest and root domain. It asks you this because if you have what is known as legacy servers or legacy services, which basically means anything old, right? Any of the old servers or services that may have run. Why is this important? You might have databases that only run on a 2008 or a 2003 functional domain level, right? And if that's the case, then it can't use the advanced features of a 2012 server. So you have to build the functional level to accommodate the oldest system that needs to work on your domain. Does that make sense? Okay. So since this is a standalone server, it's my first server in this virtual capacity. Oh, I can increase this screen so that you can see. Um, oh, well, it didn't increase it that much. Yeah, it will. Um, so I can, um, because this is the first domain controller, it in this virtual capacity, I can make the functional level whatever I want, right? If the only servers that I am considering deploying in this infrastructure are going to be the 2012 or above, then I don't have to worry about it. Okay, but if I am in fact going to, if I'm rebuilding a domain, for instance, I've got to do an inventory of all the servers that they have on their existing domain, right? All of the different services and the applications and those things that they have working, and any of those things that have a dependency on a different functional domain level, like a 2008 or a 2003, then I need to step the functional domain level, the functional level of the New Forest and root domain down to accommodate that legacy system. Okay, but again, in this case, 2012 is what I'm going to select. What I need to do is type in a password. Oh, this is actually, I think it's still working. You see the progress indicator moving across the top there? That indicates that it is still working. I cannot yet type in this field. Now I can. Did you just see the asterisk become highlighted? And that progress indicator is no longer moving. It is now that I can actually type in this field. Okay. So I'm going to put in the password of an account with credentials to complete this. Okay, an authoritative parent zone cannot be found. Okay, and that's fine. What I'm going to do is I have not configured the DNS yet, so I'm going to go past this, and once this is set up, then I'll configure the DNS. This should populate. The NetBIOS name is the old method of communicating. This should probably populate with the name of my functional domain, which was Black Starliner. Exactly. It just drops off the .com. Okay. Right. Now, these are the default locations where an Active Directory or a domain controller stores files. Okay. Oftentimes, administrators will break this up and put them onto different volumes. The logic behind doing so, again, speaking with administrators, you'll find each of them speak to a different logic as it relates to why they would do that. They want to have the logs file separated, and maybe they're thinking that they're gaining some level of redundancy in moving these files. But again, it's cleaner, it's easier. Leave them in their default locations, all on the C drive. This is really no need to do so. Okay, we go next, and what it does is it goes and it reviews for you all of the changes that you are about to make to this server. Okay. And if you wanted, so this, we are building the DC or the domain controller at the top level of a new forest. Okay. If I were going to deploy, which I am, additional servers, then I might view and save this script because I can duplicate all of the configuration changes or all the configurations that I've made here very quickly by way of a script or an answer file. And so all of these questions that have just been asked of me will be answered by way of that script. Okay, it'll record what I've done and it will do that. Right, so that's a very helpful thing to do. Okay. Before this video gets too large, I'm going to pause And I will continue later on once, what do I've got? I've got a prerequisites check. Verification of prerequisites of domain controller promotion failed. The local administrator account becomes the domain administrator account when you create a new domain. The new domain cannot be created because the local administrator account password does not meet requirements. So I've got to change the complexity requirements on the password. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get that corrected. And once I'm ready to move forward again, I'll start up the recording and I will share out the continuing of building a functional domain. I will also build an Exchange server and show you every element of managing a network today in any infrastructure anywhere on the planet Earth. We're going to take this hill. I'm going to show you things that they don't want you to know. All right? Very well. Stay tuned. Here it comes.